Hello everyone, I'm Brian from Orchids by Brian, and I am here at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. with lead horticulturist John Sonnier, and we are going to check out the British Embassy's orchid collection and the incredible gardens here at the Embassy. So I'm going to pass it along to John, who's going to give us a tour of this amazing facility for all of you. So with that, John, over to you.
Well, hi, I'm John Sonnier. I'm the horticulturist here at the British Ambassador's Residence. And I'm with Brian today, and I want to talk to Brian about our orchid collection and what we do in our orchid collection that may be a little bit different than what a lot of other people do. The orchid collection was conceived in 2009. Orchids have always been a part of the British Ambassador's Residence garden since about 1965, when the greenhouses were originally built. As the years went on, the greenhouses got bigger and bigger, to the point to where they are today. Where we're standing here is kind of the gatekeeper. Nothing comes into our greenhouse without first taking a visit here. First thing we do is we're going to do a virus test. It doesn't matter what orchid we buy or who we buy it from or who gave it to us, whether it's well-known commercial greenhouses or well-known growers. It's our protocol that we virus test everything that comes into our collection. And then after those plants have come into our collection, we periodically check those again. The other thing that we do here is we also want to make sure that no orchid comes in our greenhouse and that we haven't removed or considered pest. So I'm not sure if you've heard about our collection, but in our gardens and our greenhouses, we use 0 pesticides, 0 herbicides. We don't use fungicide. We don't use anything with skull and crossbones. But what we do is we will use neem oil, which is down here, and horticultural soap. It's really important that we are transparent in what we do. We don't want to just say we do something and then go around back and sneak something else in. So you'll see those things, and every tour we give, we want to point those things out to people. The other thing we do is we use 70% rubbing alcohol and cotton swabs to remove physical pests. Another thing that we do in the greenhouse, since we're talking about IPM, is we also use a combination of different beneficial insects. By doing all those things in our visual inspection, which is daily in the greenhouse, we found that pesticides are just not something that we need. They don't need them in nature, so why should we need them here? All about culture, all about how your cultural practices and how you take care of things. Each plant, we wear gloves between each plant. We use single blade razor blades, only one time, kind of like the doctor's office. At the time, at the height of the Great Recession, money was obviously a concern. Obviously, it's still a concern. Ambassador at the time, Lady Shinewall, was adamant that if we did anything with these greenhouses, it had to have purpose, historically, culturally, and it couldn't, and it had to also be sustainable, whatever we do. And so, thinking back, they say Washington is a small town. It's not necessarily what you know, but who you know. At Hillwood, I was fortunate enough to work with Joe Francis for many, many years. However, my role at Hillwood was project manager. I was building gardens and curating the sculpture collection. But when I came here, I needed to have a purpose for these greenhouses, and there's nothing like having a friend that you can call upon to help you. So Joe and I sat with Lady Shinewall, and we came up with a few things that we all thought that were important. The Embassy and Lady Shinewall definitely wanted us to be more sustainable, to try to be as green as possible. After researching British horticulture, British houses, we came upon Western Burt. Western Burt's house in England was who owned by George Holford, was one of the largest they had one of the largest orchid hybridization businesses at the turn of the 20th century. Their grower, H.G. Alexander, is famous for some of his cultivars. It was important that we supported the best of the British growers, also the best of American growers. We took it a step further, and we realized that World War II changed the whole orchid business in the world, especially the UK. If you think about the UK, there's a great book out now called The Lost Orchid. I don't know if you've read that yet. but it's awesome. It really talks about the orchid trade and how it was really more about commerce than it was about botany or science. The first orchid that they found actually came as a pseudobulb that went to England and was used for packing. It wasn't until British botanist Hooks, I believe, said, let me propagate this thing and see what comes up. This is about 1805, and that was that whole period of colonialization and exploration. And so once they realized and actually bloomed that out in England, all of a sudden everyone went gaga. Everybody wanted this exotic, floral, fragrant plant. We wanted to actually capture some of those plants that were being grown in England up until World War II. That's kind of why we have this. Oh, there's one other thing while we're sitting here. You're probably looking at this big thing here and not realizing that that's not a hot water heater. That's a solar collector. Because in 2009, I was able to get funds to put in solar tubes on top.
Oh, nice.
So we heat the water, but we also installed a 17,000-gallon cistern. So we only water our orchids with collected rainwater heated by the sun.
Nice.
Furthering our sustainability, our green effort. A few years ago, the Smithsonian, I'm not sure if you know, I don't know how recent it is, probably 5 or 6 years ago, they put in a cistern. That was because they came here and saw what we were doing. And so we kind of like to say that, we help to educate other people about, the benefits of, not necessarily using city water, because orchids don't really need fluoride.
Right.
And so that works pretty well. We have 2 greenhouses. It's pretty warm today, but this is actually normally our cold house. And if you were to come in here in a January, February day, it would probably be about 50 degrees in here right now. Today, I think it's maybe in the 60s. But we only handle, what we have in here is a lot of our ornamental collection. We have 7 different types of citrus, topiaries, different things that usually go out into the gardens. But we also have our cymbidium collection in here, and we also have our Oncidium collection. Both of those, as you know, need to have cooler temperatures in the wintertime. And so that's what we mainly go in here. There's not a lot of cymbidiums blooming yet this year, but if you look, you can definitely see them starting to spike. So we're probably about a month, 2 months away from that. I kind of developed this kind of a stadium style way of displaying cymbidiums, because I felt that some of the cymbidiums, because they get so big, I wanted to make sure that they had equal light. And so this is another thing that that I'm not sure if any of you received any of these a few years ago when you were buying bulbs or anything, but all of these plastic containers were headed for the dumpster. These plastic containers were from the milk deliveries at the embassy. They delivered 4 or 5 gallons a week and 4 or 5 crates, and the chef didn't want to use them. So we brought them into the greenhouse, and we use them for all kinds of things now, but this setup works out pretty well. I shared this with my friend Tam at the Huntington Gardens, and I'm not sure if they're doing that right now, but it still works really well, because where we are in Washington, the sun angle is so low this time of the year that unless we have this, the backside would never see the light of day. So it works out pretty well.
What a phenomenal collection. My gosh, some of these cymbidiums are massive, John.
Yeah, well, you can walk down if you want. You can see. But
yeah, I was looking at some of these blooms here. Now, I wanted to ask, too.
Now that's blooming kind of out of season.
That's beautiful. Let's see if I can get some light. That is gorgeous.
This is...
Incredible.
I pulled this tag because I wanted to show you something. We have, this is another thing I learned from Joe, is that these tags are invaluable. Every plant in our collection is handled just like a museum collection. Each plant has its own accession number. And that accession number can tell me so much about the plant. Can tell me when I got the plant, virus test, who it came from, last time it was repotted, and it's also a good way to identify. We have this wonderful British crest on all of ours. So I would say record keeping is probably the most important thing next to culture that you can do in your collection. That tag is not the only way we identify this plant. We further identify that by putting an extra tag in the container, but then we transfer that information to a handwritten notebook. From the handwritten notebook, it then goes to an Excel spreadsheet, and then we take that a step further. We share that with a couple other botanic gardens. In the event that something were to ever happen to this place, people then have a record of what we had.
Wow.
I'm frustrated at the point right now because I'm trying to get Western Birch orchid records. But like a lot of people, or like a lot of institutions, once something's gone, they don't really see the value in it. But they had a phenomenal collection, and I'm still on the hunt. I think we can find it, but that's kind of one of the reasons that we share it with other places, because you can't just leave it in one place because you never know what'll happen. So lots of times people, unfortunately, pass, and their families don't see the value in that. You know, that happened at Hillwood Museum. Fortunately, I was able to go to the museum, to the American Garden Archives there, and after a lot of digging, I found Marjorie Merriweather Post's original collection. I did that back in the late 90s. So they have it if they want to use it.
Wow.
So,
and this is beautiful here too. This is a native orchid, right? To,
that's native of Florida, yeah.
Right, this is
Commonly known as
Priceless cochleata?
Yep, that's it.
Wonderful.
It's commonly known as a clamshell orchid.
Right.
I personally think it looks kind of like a squid, but
yes.
that plant's been blooming for about 6 months.
Wow.
And you can see it's got lots of more spikes coming on. It's a sequential bloomer, so don't ever cut these off, you know. Unfortunately, an early lesson that I had to learn the hard way, I had a butterfly orchid and got scale on it, and I cut those off one day, and fortunately Joe was, fortunately came back the next week because he thought he was pretty upset when I did that, but you know, it's all about learning. You do it once and hopefully you learn.
Exactly.
This is different dendrochilums we have here. A lot of, sometimes plants we have are other collectors. You know, we don't really seek out collections, but I forget the name of the collector who had these, but he moved on to Santa Fe, and we were able to get these dendrochilums for him, as well as this one.
Oh wow, look at that. That's beautiful.
This has been blooming probably for more than 3 months.
Wow.
And I don't understand why it keeps blooming, but it's, as you can see, it's continuing. I think one of the things that the dendrochilums are one of those orchids that if you leave them alone, they're happy. So I repotted these about 2 or 3 years ago, and they sulked. But now it's happy. It's a happy plant now. So
I find that with some of my Silogenies in my collection, because I know dendrochilum and Silogeny, I'm pretty sure, are related. But they sulk. They can pout for a while.
So I'm not going to repot them for a while.
That's right.
It's
Well,
kind of like our
happy.
cymbidiums. We don't repot our cymbidium until they break the pot.
That's wow. I mean,
they like to be root bound as well. That's Tracianum, that big guy right there.
That's incredible. That plant is huge.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well, that's actually a division that I got from Robin Collins.
Oh, okay.
Robin actually. It's kind of weird how orchids. That orchid was originally in our collection, and I divided it and had too many. So I give so many plants to the National Capital Orchid Society that most people don't even realize. But just last month, I sent like almost 30 plants to Joe, and so a lot of the times. But what's great is because Joe can then feed them to the community. I don't know all those people. But anyway, the cymbidium ended up here after I divided it, and we kept a piece, and Joe sent us to Mona and Robin. If you don't know Robin, she's like a miracle worker. She created this cymbidium that was, it took a semi-truck to bring it in.
Oh, her plants are incredible. I don't know what she's putting in those plants, but I need to figure it out because they are amazing.
Well, anyway, she took a chainsaw, I think, and cut that thing up and gave me a division back. So that plant left and came back.
That's incredible.
But, and that's the beauty of orchids, you know, is you can, you know, there's a network you know, that we can all share, because, you know, all these things have to be divided at some point, and we all have so much space. When we started this collection, we started down below because I was new to this, and we had some things that were left over, some tropicals in here, and Joe said, you're going to run out of space. You're going to run out of space. Well, we've been out of space for a long time. So now what we do is, you know, it is good because if you run out of space, then it forces you to not only share your plants, but also forces you to cull the bad things in your collection out. Some people hang on to dead and dying plants, and all they're doing is, you know, attracting insects and other diseases. So we try to have only healthy, vigorous plants in our collection, because, you know, sometimes it'll take, you know, 3, 4, 5 years to get a sick plant healthy again. And here at the embassy, I need plants that I can actually display in the residence. I can't do that. I mean, I can't collect things that don't support the mission. Everything I have to be able to show it in the residence. I can't have a collection here. This collection, as I said, supports the diplomatic cultural needs of the residents. So anyway.
Fantastic. And these Oncidiums are beautiful.
Well, these just came back. See, these are example of two plants that were in the residence for probably a month, and they've just come back, and now they're going to rest. Next year, they'll go back. So.
Nice. And I know we'll talk about it probably a little bit later on, but the significance of orchids to Britain and to the British Embassy, you know, and especially the Royal Horticultural Society is, you know, well, like you said, they are truly important to being able to catalog the hybrids that exist.
I think plants in general are, you know, having spent a lot of time in England over the last few years, and especially last year, it's a part of the national identity, you know. If you were to, I think unfortunately, you know, when television came out and World War II ended, I think everybody in this country were kind of tired. Everybody wanted to, what can we do faster? What's the latest and the greatest, you know? And people forgot about, well, how did Grandma do it? Well, just like that cistern we have, well, she collected rainwater because she wanted to wash her hair in stuff that didn't have all that other stuff in it. And plants are the same thing, you know? The purer the water, the better the plant. So, right?
I love it.
So
this is beautiful here. What a nice Oncidium. My gosh.
Yeah, that's it's an okay plant.
Wow. Yeah.
For us, it's kind of what we call a lesser orchid, but or what Joe would call. This is and this is commercially collected, but it does really well for us. So
it's beautiful.
We don't really have a lot of cymbidiums, but they fill a void, because, you know, cattleyas in the summertime, they're growing, right? They're not doing a lot of blooming. A lot of the Oncidiums, they bloom kind of mid to late summer.
Right.
So they fill that void when the bulk of our collection is not growing.
Nice.
All of the clivias, we have a really big clivia collection. There's another dendrochilum over there.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, they're amazing little plants, but, you know, they're hard to display. But
right.
Clivias, to tell you another plant story, that clivia in the very back is a yellow clivia. It was hybridized by John Thuron up in Bucks County.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of the very first clear yellow ones. You know, White Flower Farms was selling those things for like $1,500 when they first came out. When my daughter was born 21 years ago, Joe Francis gave me two that he actually grew from seed.
Wow.
And they're down the hall here. This one is actually from Sir John Thuron. That's an original one. But those plants, so it's got tradition, you know, with plants and how they connect with people and everything. So forever when I see those blooming, I'll remember that was a gift from Joe for Giselle's birth, right?
That's amazing. Beautiful.
And so, to kind of, all the razzle-tazzle is down here. This is mainly cattleyas.
Oh, wow. And this is spectacular, John. And John, when we walked in here, there was music. Of course, I had to ask to have it paused just for copyright. But you were sharing a really interesting fact about why that music is important. Why do you play music in the greenhouse here?
Well, people are always surprised, and they think that music is for me, kind of for me. But when I first arrived at the embassy many years ago, ambassadors, diplomats, when they come to the States, lots of time the spouse takes another job, and the ambassador Scheinwald's wife, Julia Scheinwald, is a pediatrician in the UK, and when she came here, she was working at the FDA, working on children's drugs, something like that. She had a lot of reading to do. When we first started this collection, we virus tested what was here, and it was mostly Phalaenopsis like that, and a few Cattleyas. We virus tested and ended up with 10 plants.
Wow.
So needless to say, it was pretty sparse in here. So sparse that we were able to we set up a fountain at the very end, and we set up a table and a chair. And so at the end of the day, she would come and relax and read her papers in the conservatory.
Wow.
So music is, this is an orchid collection. We're not a commercial greenhouse. This is a personal collection. It's personal every 4 years because a new resident lives here. Ambassadors are usually here for 4 years. We're not a horticultural institution. We're not a botanic garden. We're the home of the British ambassador. So that makes it much more welcoming and homey. So much so that when King Charles was here many years ago and walked through the greenhouse, you know, it was like, to him, it was like home, because he said, oh, this is just like Highgrove. And so traditionally, you know, it may seem old-fashioned, but this is what you would have had in greenhouses. So we want to just create that ambiance that you're not coming into just an old rickety greenhouse. You're coming into someplace special. Yeah?
Wow. I love
it. So a lot of the plants we have in here are the best of the British and the best of the American collection, Brian.
Wow.
And I'm sure looking around, you can probably identify some of them. Presently, we're not just collecting anything. I'm working a lot with the folks at Walder to really enrich the collection so that we keep the quality of what we have historically and culturally in the collection. They do a really good job. I mean, they've been at it for 100 years there.
Right.
Something special in here. We mentioned Joe Francis, and I have to, because, I mean, we don't have anything without his knowledge. So a few years ago when we were at the AOS judging, I took in this plant, which is, I think it's Portia. Let me see. It's, I'm sorry, no, it's Bill Holloway. So this was a plant that is a cross between Portia and Anceps, but it hadn't been awarded. And so at the time I took it, it had about 10 spikes on it. It was quite amazing.
Wow.
And so this plant received the award of merit, I believe. And in doing so, I was then able to give it the clonal name of Joe Francis. So this plant is actually named in his honor.
That's wonderful.
A lot of times, and this plant is so prolific that you'll find this in other people's collection, because I think we've probably given away a dozen of these. I mean, we have maybe 2 here. But
this one as well?
That's another Joe Francis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. What a beautiful flower.
Yeah.
There we go. Now we got the lights.
We actually have Portia in the house. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll have the hybrid like this one, which is Joe Francis. But a lot of times we also collect the parents as well, because when you collect the parents, then you can tell the story. People can look at one plant, and they can look at the other plant, and they can look at your plant, then they can see the different traits that plant picked up from both of those. Another plant we named and had awarded was This is Pontac. The clonal name on this one, we had this awarded as well. And this is Memorial Prince Philip.
Oh,
but that is
nice.
An amazing, it's just started blooming.
That's a massive flower.
It is a massive flower.
That's beautiful.
And it blooms like that. It's just getting going. So. So, I mean, we have other plants in the collection like this Angrecum up here because we like to tell the story of Darwin. And, you know, it's the stories that connect people and to the plants, you know. And
what a special place this is. My gosh, John. Wow.
Granger's blue honeybun there. And
that's
then
beautiful.
Up here, this is George King.
Oh, yes.
This is a great plant.
George King serendipity.
It is. But guess what? George King is that story I was just telling you, is one of the parents of this plant.
Wow, neat. Oh.
Let's see.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
If you can pick out the different traits. Look at the thread.
It is intense. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That
so
is
that's
beautiful. Look at these.
So let me set this down. I'll tell you what this is. Whoop. I'm sorry, I have my glasses here today.
Ida Nakanishi, I think, right?
And it's George King and Wayani King.
Wow.
So having the plant, but then also having the parents, you know, and then having guests that come to see us, I said, well, you can see the difference in them. And they don't really realize, you know, that, well, look at the throat and how intense the yellow is here. And that hot pink tip on the end in George King. And then when you come over here, you can see how subtle, but the color of that is amazing. I don't.
That is spectacular.
I can't say one is an improvement. I just think that they both have a.
They are. Yeah, this is a gorgeous flower.
Put this guy back up. Sorry, it's kind of dark in here. You know, one thing about greenhouses, a lot of times people don't think about light. But we have this wonderful red oak that in the summertime is not so much of a problem. But starting in about September, when the sun angle, it gets somewhat dark.
It gets dark, yeah.
But we're eventually going to this new LED greenhouse strip. We're just testing this strip here.
Oh, nice.
But it's already increased our light considerably. But eventually we'll convert all of the lighting to that.
And these are gorgeous too. The Cattleyas, and the fragrance in here is also amazing.
Yeah.
I wish folks could
I think I'm
tell.
immune to it by now.
Yes, yeah.
Well, this is nothing. If you were to come back in about 2 months, like January or February, it's almost bloom to bloom in here.
Wow. That's beautiful. And I saw that flower over on the other side there. Is that a Warzoisii? Or, I got it wrong. What is that one?
That's Enid.
What is it?
That's Enid.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah, that's a remake of Enid, I think from Walter, but I go to the shows and I go particularly to see what is of historic significance they have. I picked this up a few years ago, but this is Enid, 1898, the remake of that. This is Warsecii and Mossiei.
Oh, Mossiei, okay.
This thing is almost a constant bloomer.
That's spectacular. What a flower.
Yeah. Well, you missed You know, we have Cattleyas on top that we're just letting those go to bed there.
Oh, yes.
Grammatophyllums up there. You missed these three, which were all hybridized at Westernburg. This one is Portia Conizario. And this plant had 6 spikes on it this year.
Oh, my Lord.
But the problem is, with our orchid judging, it started blooming like the day after judging.
Yes.
And then it was done by the time judging came around again.
It always happens that way, doesn't it? Where these orchids, sometimes you get blooms and they'll just come in right when you don't want them to. You're like, oh, it's gonna be on time, and then it's like, yeah, I'm gonna take my time.
There's something I have to show you on my phone that is really important, sorry. We'll go to April 1st.
And I love that you take a natural approach to pest and fungal controls here. It's not everywhere that you see that. It's actually, in my experience, when I've visited a lot of nurseries and collections, it's uncommon, and so it's really nice.
Well, I've been everywhere, and I've worked at a lot of important places, and it's really difficult to get people to get away from it. A lot of it, say, is economics. I mean, some of those people have plants this big, right? And it's to virus test that and say that even though it probably blooms nice every year, that you have to throw it away is unconscionable for a lot of institutions.
Right.
The fortunate thing about us is when I got here in 2009, this greenhouse was just being built. This one used to be a much smaller greenhouse. It was rebuilt into this modern greenhouse we have. The greenhouse behind me was modernized, reskinned, and all new components put in that. So I came into this with those 100 orchids, ended up with 10. I could rewrite the story of how we took care of them. Wow. It's not like I inherited someone else's collection that has been cared for 50, 75, 100 years, like in Kew Gardens and places like that. So we are different because we were able to, from the very inception, say this is what we're going to do.
Right.
But we still have big plants, and the one I want to show you is this one. This talk wasn't supposed to be about Joe, but this collection is nothing without talking about him. This is Skinneri Casaluna.
Oh my.
This plant was given to Joe as his very first plant.
No way.
Yep.
Huh.
And Aggie, his wife, bought this at Trader Joe's.
No way, really?
Joe had just retired from the government. Joe, have you been to his place?
No, I've never been.
Joe has a 3-acre gentleman's garden out in Herndon, and he had dahlias and vegetables and fruit trees and all kinds of botanical collections of plants. It's like an arboretum mini farm all in one.
Wow.
Aggie gave him this plant, some 40-some years ago, and said, grow this. And Joe, being in the government for a long time in the State Department, decided that he was going to invest everything into learning about orchids. And as you know now, he's taught and continues to teach many of us about what he's learned. But we took divisions of this plant, so I have others in the collection. But a few years ago, I decided to just say, I just wanted a specimen of this plant. And when this plant blooms, so I don't know if you can see this on my phone, but that's this plant in bloom.
Wow.
April 1st.
Oh my word, that's amazing.
Let me give you
Skinneri is already a phenomenal.
I'll give you a perspective.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Holy cow. That is phenomenal.
And so I keep threatening this plant to take it apart. But as you can see, there are probably 50 spikes on this plant right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see some sheaths already too, and oh wow.
There's a guy in North Carolina, I think his name is Keith Davis.
Okay.
You know who that is?
I don't think so.
But he has he's one of those orchid people, kind of quirky and very protective of his collection, but he does give some valuable, and he said sometimes, that's just the way they want to be. Don't rush to repot them, just if they're happy, leave them alone. And so you can see we've kind of built these towers for some of these bigger ones because they would shade up and take too much vent space. But by kind of putting this extra story on here, that allows us to have these big specimens up here. You also probably noticed that no orchid in our greenhouse is actually going to drip down on the other ones. The orchids ahead of you are right in the middle of this walkway. So when we water, we're not contaminating the plants below.
Smart. Right.
We don't double stack plants. You know, I see a lot of places you go into greenhouses and it's 2-3 rows of plants. We choose not to do that. This is just starting to, okay, this is not what I thought it was. I thought that was H.G. Alexander, but
Huge buds though, my gosh. Look at this, these are beautiful.
yeah, these little guys.
Wow.
You know, we're talking about,
Look at this.
now we're talking about orchids, and sometimes an orchid decides what it wants to be and how it wants to grow. This is Cattleya chestipular.
That's amazing. Look at that
Chestipular
flower.
is the most decorated marine in the U.S. Marines. He's a big, kind of a square guy, as you would imagine, being in the Marines, but he used to walk around with a chest full of medals. And someone that decided that they would name this plant. And trust me, you can see what a dominant plant this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 spikes. This is just starting to bloom. And look, this was just repotted 2 years ago, and it's completely out of the pot. But we're going to honor that, and we're going to display that just like, we're not going to stake this plant. Because I want it's going to be
That will be amazing. I mean, even with the one spike open right now, it's amazing.
I think this, yeah.
Wow, look at that. The very like faint pink lavender color and each
With that
flower
lemon
petals with
yellow
that.
in the middle.
Oh, I
is
know,
amazing.
yeah.
Kind of a lot like pastoral rosé.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And then we have over here, we have,
Oh, this is gorgeous too.
yeah, this is new to our collection. This is,
Well, this must have some lot of Gessie in it, I would guess, right?
it does right there. That's one of the
Oh
parents.
yeah, a lot of
right
Gessie
there.
and a Calandii. Oh,
Yep.
nice. Robentiae. Nice.
It's
I
an
love bifoliate
incredible color.
Cattleya's. They are beautiful.
They're a little fussy sometimes. but
They are, yes. Especially with repotting.
we take
it's like,
every bifoliate we have and it goes outside.
Yeah.
They love to be outside better. Now look, you want to talk about color, look at Asia Pacific.
Oh my gosh.
This is Asia Pacific.
Look at that flower.
That's probably the most intense color of any orchid I've seen.
That is. Wow. All the way through too. The yellow is almost like just that, I don't even know, bumblebee orange, kind of dark rust
And
red.
the lip is it's not red, it's, I don't know what you call that color.
Right, yeah.
Like
I don't think the
pomegranate, I
yeah.
thought, you know?
Yeah, like a cranberry. It's really, really pretty.
You recognize that plant blooming back there?
Oh yeah, is that CJ Roebling?
G. Roebling, yeah.
Nice. I love any Purpurata hybrid. But CJ Roebling, I know that's a very, very famous.
But it's an oldie, you know, it doesn't really conform to the judges, you know, completely flat orchids, but we kind of embrace the older ones. When we go in the house, I'll show you one that
Nice.
you've probably never seen before.
I'm excited, I can't wait.
I'll show you that one. There's a few more down here. There's like Peking, Penang, Black Caesar a little bit further up.
Is that this guy right here?
No, this is
this is-
Arthur Boson. This is one of those plants that we collected from the Duffin collection.
Oh.
We want to give homage to people that got us to where we are, and these people were incredible hybridizers. I wish I had got to meet them, but fortunately we do have some of their plants. I can tell you every plant that came from the Duffin collection because it was collected in June of 2017.
Huh.
And that's when Joe and I went up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful flower.
This is Penang Black Caesar.
This is the Black Caesar.
Yeah, with that light, I'm sure it's really illuminated.
Oh, yes. It's a lifesaver. It doesn't do it justice. So folks that are watching at home, there is nothing like seeing it in person, but boy, that is beautiful.
Would you like to head over to the residence and
Would
see
love to.
what
That
we
would be
do?
great.
Why we have this and how we use them?
That would be fantastic. Let's
Okay,
head over that way.
let's go that way then.
All right.
You might want to keep that on and see the garden on the way.
I would love. Yeah, that would be great.
So Brian, we're actually standing on a piece of property that was not part of the original grant that the embassy bought back in 1925. As you can see, there's a plaque on the wall that says that this was acquired in 1940. Fortunate for us because this was the property line at that point. And if Lord Lothian in 1940 didn't have the foresight to buy these two lots, there would have been houses or a service station or something else. So because of that 1940 acquisition, the greenhouses then and the gardeners, all of our kind of village down here was able to be built.
Wow.
Now, this is actually an Edwin Lutyens designed gate.
Wow.
If you don't know who Edwin Lutyens is, you've probably seen one of his benches that I'll show you inside.
Excellent.
The significance of this place architecturally is that this house and garden was designed by two of the 20th century's most prominent British designers. The house was designed, and gardens was designed by Edwin Lutyens. But Edwin Lutyens, at 19 years old, met Gertrude Jekyll. Gertrude Jekyll was like a Martha Stewart of our present day. She was a writer or an artist, but she was also very smart, and a lot of her gardens are throughout Great Britain, and lots of places like Great Dixter and things like that are all influenced by Lutyens Jekyll. Because he, for the next 40 years, kind of like what relationship I have with Joe, he did his own thing, but he learned and was always had that thing in his ear that Gertrude Jekyll was telling him. And one of the things that I admire most about when it comes to her philosophy was that Gertrude Jekyll felt that the built element, the house, walls, had to coexist in harmony with the garden and nature. So when we walk in the garden, you'll probably notice that this is not your typical Washington, D.C. garden. Well, the first thing you do is you come in and there's lavender, because immediately we want you to embrace the landscape, embrace the garden. Just like in medieval times when these were spewing herbs, this is meant for you to interact with it. There was someone that had come on board here and says, "You should prune that," and I said, "You should leave." So,
wow.
Yeah, so this is one of Edwin Lutyens' masterpieces. This is his only house in the Western Hemisphere. Architects, designers, garden historians come from all over the world to see this place because they're all fascinated with what he... If you look at that bench,
Oh.
I would say that that is probably the finest piece of garden ornament ever designed. And I say that because Edwin Lutyens designed it, but the places that you'll see that bench. If you go to the White House, you'll see that bench. If you go to the Vatican, you'll see that bench. It's like a must-have if you're in gardens. So,
Wow.
now the rose garden, we use no pesticides or herbicides either in the gardens. We try to have good cultural practices and how we prune them and take care of them. But if we find a rose that is very difficult or it needs some kind of chemical intervention, then we find it another home. We don't spray for black spot. We don't spray for Japanese beetles. We don't spray for anything, you know.
Wow.
We had a problem in the far corner where we were getting a lot of powdery mildew, but we removed a hedge that wasn't appropriate, increased the airflow, and we don't have that problem anymore.
Wow, that's all it took.
That's all it took.
That's amazing.
You're here at an awesome time of the day because our Japanese maple collection is incredible. Look over there.
Oh my gosh. Wow, look at the color. Oh my gosh.
This is probably one of the
That is
best years for
spectacular.
color. Well, you're getting
Wow.
it's backlit right now, so it's on
Oh
fire.
my word.
We
I'm
have
from New England, so I love my fall foliage, but this cannot compare. This is unbelievable.
You know, and just what we were talking about, plants and plant names and connections with people. If you look across and you see the one in the very middle, that's a little bit lighter than the other two.
Yeah.
That was planted 50 years ago by Prince Philip in
Wow.
July of 1976 to commemorate our bicentennial.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that.
This October glory that's just turning yellow there, that was planted to commemorate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee by Prince Harry. I planted that tree with him.
Huh.
This very large maple here, that red sunset was planted in 1985 by Princess Diana and Prince Charles.
Wow. That is so cool.
So a lot of the plants.
So much history connected to the plants here, which is, you know, you assume obviously the property and the building and the you know, like the history behind the architecture, but it's very cool
it's all
to hear about
that
the plant
British
connection.
sensibility and that connection with nature that they have.
Right.
Gertrude Jekyll, felt that formality should be at the house, but as you got away, you should go into this very romantic kind of woodland landscape. If you're standing here at a reception and you're someone really important, you're in your own world.
Right.
There are houses beyond all that and beyond all that, but the way that we've landscaped it and borrowed views from beyond gives a picturesque view that you're in the English countryside.
Right.
This house is here. British government really felt that after being in Washington for a couple centuries, they really needed to have a sense of presence, a sense of cultural, architectural, diplomatic permanence, and that's why this house was built. When you come into this property, it's meant to say, yes, this is Great Britain, and we look across in 1930 and you would have seen the seat of the U.S., the National Mall there.
Wow.
But World War I is what facilitated the beginning of this, because that relationship was solidified between the U.S. and the U.K. During World War and after World War. Ever since, we're the closest allies of anybody, probably.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. And it doesn't feel like you're in Washington, D.C. anymore. It definitely does not.
A lot of things, history plays such an important part. You can see these ginkgos that anchor the portico here. I use historic documentation before I decide what I'm going to plant. When I first arrived, those were weeping Japanese maples.
Oh.
But later, I found a photograph that showed Winston Churchill on those very steps right there in 1943 giving his Ironside speech, and flanked on either side of him were ginkgos. And that gave me the license and the authority to say, no, that's inappropriate, but this is what should be there, and that's what we put.
Wow. What a cool opportunity. What a cool job you have, John.
Well,
This
it
is
has
so neat.
It has a lot
To
of
have
moving
that,
parts.
yes, yes.
You can see the hearths up there kind of seated on the hillside. There is a lawn there, but we've just sowed 50,000 wildflower seeds there.
Wow.
And we have about 2,000 plugs that we'll be putting in the spring. We're slowly minimizing our impact of lawns and trying to create much more greater biodiversity in the landscape by allowing things like wildflowers to just grow.
Nice.
So that when you see the perennial border there, that will continue all the way up to the tree where Prince Philip planted that maple up there. Even our lawns, we embrace clover. You know, people might say, especially if you're an American, like, wow, that's a weed. Why would you do that?
I was gonna say my dad does that too in his yard. No, I'm kidding.
But clover, you know, has much beneficials to the soil, you know, increasing nitrogen and things like that. But also, you know, one of the coolest and also kind of sad experiences I recently had is I had Girl Scouts in the garden, and there was a Girl Scout, and the lawn, we have clover, we have this and we have that. And she says, "You've got a lot of weeds in your lawn." And I says, "Well, does your dad have any weeds in his lawn?" And she says, "No, his lawn is perfect." And then I asked her a simple question. I said, "Have you ever picked a 4-leaf clover?" And she had no clue what I was talking about.
Wow.
Because no one had ever taken her to look for a 4-leaf clover because they have a monoculture at their house.
Huh.
We don't have monocultures here.
Wow. Nice. I love it.
I'm not sure if I got through to her, but this is, I know this is not part of Orchids, but that's Barbara Hepworth, another famous British sculptor there.
Wow.
But there's special things like you're supposed to sit on that bench because this is the back of the sculpture, and you're supposed to reflect this way.
Wow.
So there's a lot of sentiment in the garden, you know, a lot of different things. You know, British garden and garden history goes really far back. And if you go back to a garden designer called Capability Brown, Capability Brown kind of early on, I think 1700s, you know, he was actually creating landscapes where he would purposely put a temple on a hill, or he would put something way off to kind of get you off the porch, you know. These different vignettes that made you realize that, you know, there's more to the garden than what you see out the window.
Huh. I love that.
And so we have one little thing over here. It's going to be interesting to see if it works with your camera. You've heard about the British humor, right? And
oh, yes, yes.
And so there's also things in gardens that are called follies, or jokes in the garden.
Oh.
And so when we walk up here, this is a Gertrudical kind of a cottage border. And we won't cut this down until January or so, because we want to take advantage of all the winter interest in all these plants. But when you walk, one other tree, that small Japanese maple there was planted in 2014 by Princess Anne, the king's sister, to commemorate 800 years of the signing of the Magna Carta.
Wow.
So, but if you come here, does this remind you of anything?
Does this remind me of anything?
Well, this was
I don't know.
originally a
It's like
Gertrudical design. Lutyens adopted this. You'll see this type of a landscape feature in many historic gardens in the UK. Great Dixter has a very similar garden like this. Monkstead Wood, Gertrudical's home, you'll see this. But what makes this special is what you don't expect. And so I'm going to ask you, Brian, to follow instructions and stand in the center and face that way, and don't turn around, and speak. Keep your camera on and your sound that way. And
all right, down to the center. And then speak this way?
Yep.
Okay.
And now turn around and speak this way.
All right. And now, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow.
What does this remind you of?
Like a coliseum, or like I feel like I'm inside of like a bottle or something, or an amp. Oh wow!
Dissect that word. Amphitheater, amplify.
Wow.
And it's done through physics. The only ways I hear you and you hear me is my sound waves are reflecting and bouncing back to me. And in this case, it's 180 degrees. So you got 180 of me screaming at you right now.
Wow. I hope it does get picked up on the camera, because that is wild. That is so neat. I did not expect that at all.
So getting back to Capability Brown, we have lots of different vignettes in the garden. We have a swimming pool beyond those trees. We have tennis courts beyond those trees. Beyond those trees, we have our bee apiary and our compost area. You were at the greenhouse. So there's many opportunities to get out and see different things in this garden, you know?
Wow.
So
That is beautiful. And I'm sure in every season, this place must look anew. It's. I can imagine you come any time of the year. Obviously,
it's
we're in fall.
definitely a four-season garden, that's for sure.
Wow.
Even the winter time, it's incredible how the architecture of the plants kind of reveal themselves. It's really quite amazing. But I would say that this year, the fall color, for some reason or another, is incredible.
It is beautiful.
Go to the Shenandoah, but we have our own little.
That's right. You don't need to go very far.
Now, look at the ginkgo over there, the bright ginkgo.
Oh yeah, this is beautiful.
Let's head inside, and I'll show you why we have an orchid collection.
Amazing. All right. It's so peaceful, too, when you come out here. It's so quiet and...
Most of the time, my staff and I are the only people out here. But but you have to also understand that this is the diplomatic seat of Great Britain in the United States. We have over 400 events a year here.
Wow.
Yep, and I'm not sure tonight, but many evenings there are receptions going on. Every reception spills onto the garden. It's that when you get inside, you'll understand why. But the house was really meant to embrace both the house and garden.
Nice.
You can't separate the two. This is a great rose there. That's
Wow, that is beautiful.
Julia Charles. That rose has been blooming since April.
Wow.
It's all about picking the right plant for the right spot, you know, and picking a plant that will tolerate the conditions that you have. Biggest mistake most people make is they like plants and they want to bring a plant that they like regardless of whether it's going to actually perform in the conditions they have.
And that applies to orchids.
Yeah.
That definitely applies to orchids.
Oh, most definitely. You know, it's a challenge. We're growing cymbidiums, and most people around here says, oh, can't grow cymbidiums. But, you know, you just have to figure out what the conditions are that they like and be able to give them that 50 degrees in the wintertime. And
right.
A lot of people can't do that.
Right.
These are original. These are almost 100 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And everything, so, the detail is like impeccable. It is impeccable.
You know, Lutyens was a genius, but I think he was also I think this was later in his career, and I think he learned a lot of things on the way. One of the things I really admire is when he came here, he said, let's only use local material. Let's not import limestone from Portland, England, when we have Indiana limestone. Let's not import slate from Wales, because that's what they're famous for when you have Pennsylvania ribbon
Right.
slate. And, you know, the bricks were done in. So he was very considerate in those things. Wow. You know, landscapes are about not only your property and your property line, but also what's beyond your property line. And in this case, like those trees beyond those Japanese maples, those are on the next street. But we were able to borrow that view and make it part of this landscape. So,
Nice. I love that.
so let me see if this door is open.
Perfect.
Should
This
be.
is just amazing, though. Look at this.
Come on in, Brian.
All right.
So as you can see, the ballroom is being set up for a banquet, for a reception probably tonight.
Wow.
And in the house that we have here, you won't see any cut flowers. People say, well, why not cut flowers? Well, it's all part of our sustainability plan. Cut flowers are only used at officials' lunches and dinners. Most cut flowers we have now are coming out of South America, overnight at FedEx, UPS. And we just choose not to contribute to something that's a one and done. And so what you'll see in the residence, as you can see,
Oh, yeah.
is you'll only
You
see
can
orchids
see.
displayed where traditionally there would have been huge flower arrangements, which would have been, from a financial standpoint, it's not sustainable. We were spending thousands of dollars a month on just cut
Wow.
flowers, and also we had a full-time florist. And now these plants have probably been, I change them out as they goes along, but usually they're in the house for sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. And
Nice.
then they go back to the greenhouse and I pick out whatever else is blooming.
Wow, look at this.
That's pastoral rosé there.
Look at that. And I love the bowl too, the
Yeah, that's
the pots.
Kew Gardens, the Royal Botanic Garden.
Wow.
And then over here, you saw this plant. Oh no, you didn't see this plant. This is just starting to bloom. And you can see it's kind of warm in here, so by next week this will be in full bloom. This is
Oh my gosh.
George H.W. Bush. And that is one of the most unbelievable
Wow.
flowers. Look at the size of that.
That is huge. The lip is beautiful, and the veining in the petals is amazing too.
So I have the liberty to actually set these plants up, and because I know what's going to happen, this plant is only going to get better. This will be here 3 weeks.
Yeah, look at these. Look at the buds. Spectacular. I love it. Wow. Thank you for sharing this with us, John.
That's cherry baby.
Yes, cherry
Everybody
baby.
has that.
That's right. We love it. Hey, but it's got that delicious fragrance.
It does. We like it so much because of that fragrance. I have a couple larger ones I'll show you. This is a small, what we call the breakfast room.
Wow.
And as you can see, every room, orchids are displayed.
That's
The orchids are not just orchids. They're also supporting the art collection. Because if you look, each orchid complements the paintings behind it. This has been in the residence for more than a month. And it's slowly fading. But this is Venosa.
Wow.
I finally figured out how to grow the Brastia cattleyas. It took me a while. But they like to be wetter than I thought.
Look at this. Wow. Oh my.
Had
I
I,
love how you use orchids in the embassy residence. I think it's awesome.
and each one, is in its own decorative container, and and then this really striking yellow with this painting here.
So nice.
That plant has been in the residence for probably 6 weeks. You can't get that out of cut flowers.
No.
And you can't get the interest and there's nothing like them, I think. And this traditionally is why they were in the great houses in Europe, And then now over here, Andy Warhol's Queen series here. And there's George King. You saw that in the greenhouse. But see how the colors in this orchid pick up the colors and in the composition behind it?
It's brilliant.
Then take a look at this orchid. This is kind of how we tell the story of historic orchids. Have you ever seen that? Undine?
No.
Yeah. That's from
I haven't before.
That's from Western Bird Arboretum. That's another H.G. Alexander who hybridized that one. But you know, as soon as people walk into the house, the first thing they see are orchids.
Oh my gosh, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
What a place. Oh my gosh. And look at this.
That's really the only way, is letting them get big enough and unstaked.
Right.
This is the natural way. Most people never see this plant like this because they want to stake it straight up.
Right.
But if you have the space to just let it bloom like the way it wants to bloom, it's totally different.
Wow. What a beautiful place. Oh my gosh.
There's a couple other rooms. Let me show you.
Perfect.
Probably the best example I have of really marrying an orchid with a historic painting is over here. This is Jeremiah Coleman.
Wow, that is.
And Jeremiah Coleman is with a painting by Vanessa Bell. But look at, it's like one is talking to the other. And so I get to have fun doing those types of things.
I love that.
Yeah. So this is where you have small meetings or receptions. This room, you can have that there. The ballroom is for much larger events. And then across the hall, those two are Angel Heart.
Oh, nice. Oh, yes.
We have,
Beautiful.
a few smaller blooms. We have some things we have duplicates of, and some of them we have 3 or 4. Angel Heart, I think we probably have 3 or 4 because they're kind of like really workhorses.
Right.
I mean, they will last forever in here.
I love them.
Yeah. We also, in 2014, created this book about the ambassador's residence by Anthony Selden. The interesting thing about this is that very few of these types of books, where you'll go to the back and you'll see the garden, but it will feature an orchid collection.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things I want to show you, this is kind of one of the things we do. We name lots of orchids after ambassadors. This is Lady Westmacott.
Wonderful.
That's Lindley.
Right.
But in the back, this is probably our most famous orchid here. That's Cymbidium Alexander Purity. Many people know Cymbidium Alexander Western Bird because this was thought to be lost to the world.
Wow.
But it ended up in Japan.
Huh.
Then George Hatfield, who was the president of the American Orchid Society, he's a collector of rare Cymbidiums. We were able to acquire it from him. And then in 2013, we had that plant awarded.
Wow.
So,
what a great story. I love the history. And the application of orchids is not something that I often highlight on my channel, is how to bring orchids into the home. I highlight a lot of nurseries, a lot of collections, but
dining
I love
room.
how
kind of a challenging room to have orchids in.
Wow.
This is another little workhorse here. This is a Hawaiian message. Oh. This thing blooms twice a year, and this is another plant that's been in the residence for more than a month.
Wow, you can see how many spikes. The quality of care that you're clearly bringing to this incredible collection of orchids, you can see in the length of the flowers and the blooms and the amount of spikes.
Look at this.
Now this is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's an amazing
Wow.
plant. That's called TriStar Bouquet, Hawaii. Wow. And that plant has been in our collection only since 2018. And guess who that came from?
Who?
My source, 004, Joe Francis.
Ah, nice.
So this is another one of those plants that we acquired from Joe.
Wow.
This little orange tag tells me that this has recently been virus tested.
Nice.
So we kind of try to hide that.
That's a beautiful bloom.
But it's a beautiful velvety, it's a small bloom, but it has so many that come up in the clusters there. It's amazing. This is another one of those bifoliates, you know, really benefits to being outside, you know, in this. I think a lot of plants, if you think about it, you know, that morning dew, those cool nights, you know, the diversity in that morning, that temperature between the daytime and the night, you know, you have them in your basement or you have them in your house or you have them on the windowsill, you can't get that temperature change, you know, and so it's hard to give the plant what it really wants, which is it wants to feel like it's where it came from.
Right.
You know? So another thing took me a long time to learn. I killed more orchids than just as many as anybody else, but sometimes it happens. That's the only way you learn is, you know, find out what really works, you know. Down this way over here, we have a kind of an herb garden.
Oh.
You know, they thought it was going to be a kitchen garden, but it's another one of those things, the cultural requirements are not here. Mm-hmm. It's shaded a lot in the summertime, and it doesn't have great air circulation, but it's a kind of a pretty little garden.
Nice.
Look at this Japanese maple behind you. What a great place for kids to hide, huh?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if I were a kid, I would be right underneath that. Oh my gosh, it's like a playground, nature's playground.
But you've got to, I'm going to take you up here so you can see the Japanese maples with the sun behind them.
Would love that.
So Lutyens was all about illusion. These walls are actually bantered. They're actually probably 2 inches narrower at the top than they are at the bottom.
Oh.
Creating a sense of depth. He also has a large set of steps and decreases and decreases. He wanted you to visually think this was much longer than it really is.
Huh.
You know, the whole house is on a center axis from the garden all the way out to Massachusetts Avenue. This line, this direct line, you know, it's about 300 foot long.
Right. Wow. This is
yeah.
so beautiful. Oh my gosh, yeah, the lighting is awesome.
So that's you can really kind of appreciate a different view of those from here. You know, it's amazing.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So I guess sometimes I do kind of walk through here and I go like, wow, you're kind of a lucky guy to walk around here. Have it to yourself most of the time.
Absolutely.
But to show you how important this garden was, you know, this house was finished in 1930 at the height of the Great Depression. And like a lot of things, if you have a house, gardens and drapes are the last thing, right? And so there wasn't really money to complete the project. So here in this little memorial to these 8 gentlemen, it says that this garden was laid out in the year 1930 by the generosity of 8 British subjects residing in the U.S.
Thank you so much, John, for this opportunity to highlight the British Embassy's orchid collection, the gardens here, and the ambassador's residence. This was incredible and an opportunity that I am immensely grateful for. So thank you for taking the time to share this amazing place with my viewers, with me, and with the world. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm Brian from Orchids by Brian, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.